As the Washington Nationals have been on a big tear recently, should Major League Baseball start to take this Nationals team serious? I'll answer that after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. Later on in today's show, we'll be previewing the Dodgers coming into town, and good news for the Dodgers. Mitchell Parker will not be in their way this time. As we all know, in his Major League debut, he dominated them. But in tonight's matchup, you have left-handed pitcher Patrick Corbin going up against left-handed pitcher James Paxton, one of the Dodgers' marquee signings, I guess you could say, from this offseason. Definitely not the main one. They got Shohei Ohtani. They got Yamamoto, who will be, by the way, on the bump this Thursday against Mackenzie Gore. So we'll preview tonight's matchup in the third segment of today's show. In the second segment, let's take a trip down to the minor leagues, as the Nationals, they've got some prospects, as we all know. But two guys in particular, we don't really talk about them too much because they're kind of shadowed out, I guess you could say, by some bigger names. But Elijah Green and Dalen Lyle. Elijah Green, a former top 5 pick in the MLB draft back in 2022. What has he been up to recently? How has he been doing? Dalen Lyle, a second-round pick back in 2021, had a breakout season last year across multiple different levels. So we'll discuss both of their play in the year of 2024 and kind of what to expect from them moving forward. But should we take this Nationals team seriously? And should Major League Baseball take this team a little bit more serious than maybe some people are at this moment? I'll answer that, but today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, and I admit it, I have a competitive side, and I am a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play Store. So let's get into it, because this Nationals team, as we sit here today, this is a pretty good team. Let's be honest. This team has been a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of similarities from last year's kind of scrappy Nats team, as they went 71-91, but still that team was a little bit better than what the record showed. They kind of floundered along the way in September. They had some injuries to key guys like Stone Garrett down in August. They had a couple other injuries where Jake Irvin kind of floundered down the stretch. Josiah Gray wasn't doing all too great as well in the second half of last season. So, but now this year, look at it from this perspective. I think this Nationals team, just to kind of answer the question now, should this team be taken seriously? Yes, they should be taken seriously. This is a pretty good ball club. Now, in the serious category, should they be taken seriously as a postseason contender? Not necessarily. I don't think we're going to be a postseason team this year, but still, the standings don't lie. You're 10-11. The Nationals have been relatively hot. You're 5 games back from the Atlanta Braves, just a handful of games back from a wild card spot. And again, this is April 23rd. You should not be having some massive expectations, and that's not going to be the goal this year. It was never going to be the goal this year to make a postseason run. But now looking at this team from this perspective, a young kind of just lit up team that you kind of look around, you see a lot of different improvements. You obviously can see it from C.J. Abrams, your star shortstop. You see it from Mackenzie Gore. You see it from Jake Irvin. You see guys like Mitchell Parker coming up and playing key roles and pitching really well in this rotation. There's a lot of different things that are going well for this team, but in particular, let's kind of attack it from this perspective. What would have to happen? What would have to happen for this team to really be taken seriously across baseball? And then that's when you kind of start talking about playoffs. Well, as we kind of know right now, this Nationals team, they're kind of out-kicking their coverage. This is a lot better team than what some people were kind of giving them credit for to start the season, including myself. Now, what has happened? What has kind of taken that step up for this Nationals team? Well, as we mentioned, C.J. Abrams has been killing the baseball, has been one of the better shortstops in the National League, and hell, even all of Major League Baseball up to this point until April 23rd. Also, Luis Garcia over at second base. That has been a huge part to this team. Luis Garcia and the way that he's been hitting the baseball, number one, his contact rate has been unbelievable up to this point. Batting over 300, having an OPS over 800, seemingly doing decent over at second base, but still there are some improvements to be had over for his defensive side of things. But Luis Garcia, I think, has been a big part of this team. CJ Abrams, again, we've talked about him so much on this show. You understand it. He's going to be a star at this point. But Luis Garcia, if someone like him were to pan out the way that he has been over the first few weeks of the season, that's when you kind of see a little bit better play. That's how close this Nationals team is. You are just a handful of guys away from actually being a contending team to make the postseason. That is why we talk about James Wood coming up and what it would mean for this team, the power that it would add instantly. Because again, this Nationals team isn't really hitting home runs at a rate that you'd like for them to do in the year of 2024, but that is why you have guys like James Wood. That is why you go out and sign a Joey Gallo, even though he's not bashing the ball like some people thought he would, including me. But Luis Garcia has been one of those guys that has kind of helped this team and this offense in particular take that next step. Because you even have guys like Lane Thomas, who has been off to an awful start this season. He has not been hitting the baseball well. He has not been hitting for really any power up to this point. Lane Thomas has not been good. But then you have a guy like Luis Garcia. If he continues to hit the ball the way that he is, and then you have Lane Thomas get back on track, who, by the way, should have been an all-star this last year. If you get those guys together, then guess what? This team does not look that bad. This team does take that step up that a lot of people were kind of expecting, maybe not myself included, but still, that is when you can actually kind of get yourself into a quote-unquote postseason territory. I'm not saying that this team will make that jump, but it's not just about Luis Garcia. You even look in left field, Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker has been incredible for this Nationals team this year. Again, if you missed last week's episode, I talked about why Jesse Winker has been the unsung hero of this Nationals team. He has been the Nationals' second best hitter behind CJ Abrams so far this season. Guys like Jesse Winker, he has been unbelievable. Hitting the ball for power, getting on base, hitting for average, doing all the dirty work that this Nationals team kind of needs. Being that veteran presence, only at 30 years old, signing a one-year minor league contract with this team, having him kind of resurrect his career in DC has been a huge part of this Nationals team's success in the early portion of 2024. Now, again, the big overwhelming question will be, is this sustainable? Probably not, if we're being honest. I'm not saying Jesse Winker is not going to be good for this team, but is he going to have an OPS over 1,000? Probably not. Is he going to bat over 300 by the time we're in September? Probably not. But you can kind of sit back and think about what this team can do for us. This team is a kind of a portion of last year's team where it's a scrappy young ball club with kind of proven vets who have come in and filled nice roles. Last year with Jeimer Candelario in the first half of the season, maybe Jesse Winker is that for us in the Nationals in 2024. There are different pieces of this team that can actually kind of look the part of a postseason team. You have those scrappy veterans. You have those young guys really kind of taking the next steps in their development like a Luis Garcia. But even then, beyond that, this team actually has portions of a team that you would say this could be a postseason team. You look at the bullpen. Guys like Dylan Floro have come in, proven vets who have played for the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have pitched in big-time moments, have come in and looked pretty damn good. You have guys like Jordan Weems who are shutting the door. Hunter Harvey, Kyle Finnegan has been pitching well at times. You all know this Nationals bullpen is even down a few guys. Like, in my opinion, I think Jose Ferrer, by the time season ends, he's going to be pitching in a huge role for this team. A left-handed pitcher, someone who doesn't really have all too much going for him as far as stuff goes, but he gets the job done, and he's got the job done at every single level, and we saw him get it done last year in the major leagues as well. This Nationals team is not really built for this success for this season, but they do have parts that can kind of convince you of maybe baseball should take this team a little bit more serious. And not even to mention guys like Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin, coming out of nowhere seamlessly and kind of pitching really well for this team. And again, Mitchell Parker, it's only been 2 starts. I'm not going to put him on the throne just yet, but still, that is kind of what starts the foundation for a postseason team. That is when baseball may take this team a little bit more serious, when you have guys develop like that and take the next step. And by the way, you still have Cade Cavalli, who's going to be coming up, someone who was a top 50 prospect going into last year, someone who was the best pitching prospect in this national system, who was throwing 100. But again, recovering from Tommy John, we'll have to see where his velo is sitting at once he comes back and rehabs, and then we'll see what happens with Cade Cavalli, because at this point, I would probably expect him to be up by midway through summer at this point, maybe mid-June to mid-July, somewhere in that range. And when he does, he's going to be a mainstay in this rotation. I just don't know how much leash the Nationals will give him as far as outings go. Will they go to a 6-man rotation to kind of rest Cavalli a little bit? I'm not 100% sure what the plan will be for him. But you have him coming back as well. That is when this team could probably be taken just a little bit more seriously. Because again, this Nationals team, it's been a fun one to watch. It has been. Sitting at 10-11 again, I don't think many people thought this team would be right around 500 at this point of the season. You've played some really lofty opponents. You've beaten the Los Angeles Dodgers in a series. You've beaten the Houston Astros. You've beaten some really good ball clubs in their own house. Again, the Los Angeles Dodgers back at home against the Houston Astros. I know the Houston Astros haven't been all too great this year, but still, that is a very loaded team with a pretty lethal offense. This Nationals team, again, not the prettiest, not the sexiest, but they do get the job done. And if Major League Baseball probably shouldn't take them all too serious, but again, if things continue to turn around the way that they have been over the last few weeks, maybe it is time to take this Nationals team a little bit more serious. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. That is where you will find your daily video coverage of the Washington Nationals. Hit that subscriber button for me as well. Next, let's tell you guys about Dalen Lyle and Elijah Green. We'll start off with Elijah Green, but before we get into it, let me tell you guys about our friends over at GameTime. And guys, GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Guys, you can pick out any specific games or matchups that you'd love to attend. Like, for instance, this Thursday, Yamamoto versus Mackenzie Gore. I will be down in DC working there. I'm going to walk up to Nationals Park, but as I walk up, I'm going to open up GameTime, and just a few clicks away, I will have my tickets in my hand, and then just a few minutes later, I will be in my seat watching that awesome pitching matchup, and I just did that this Saturday. And of course, I got the last-minute ticket deals, flash deals, and of course, they always have zone deals, and they're easy to find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of event and just everything in your area. So guys, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, let me tell you guys about our good friends over at Policygenius. And guys, Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money with you, so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some offers same-day approval and avoid unnecessarily medical exams. Have you ever gotten positive feedback from your audience? I can tell you this. I have, and everyone who has used Policygenius has enjoyed it. And also, Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. So check life insurance off your to-do list with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And now let's get you up to date on some Nationals top prospects, as some of these guys we don't really get to talk about all too much. But I think today on a Tuesday, the Nationals had the day off yesterday, which was, by the way, a much needed day off for this team. Reset the bullpen, getting ready for this Dodgers series. Let's talk about former first round pick Elijah Green. If you remember last season, Elijah Green was a very hot topic on this show. Elijah Green has got all the talent in the world. In fact, I would even go out to say that Elijah Green's ceiling going into last season was the highest of anyone in this Nationals farm system. I still think the same, even on April 23rd of the year of 2024. James Wood is going to be an awesome prospect. We already know that. I think you look at Dylan Cruz, he's going to be a star someday as well. Brady House, going to be a star. But if you talk about ceiling, if Elijah Green, if everything were to click, now it does not work that way, but if everything were to click, he has the highest ceiling of any Nationals prospect in the farm system. Bar none, not even close in my opinion. That is how talented this guy is. But it just hasn't worked out. It has not. If you look at it from this perspective, Elijah Green spent all of last season in low A Fredericksburg, even had a sprinkled in of rookie ball where he did pretty well, but still that is rookie ball. You were going up against kind of fresh high school talent and even some college guys who just got drafted, got thrown up in there. And Elijah Green has not been good. So far through his first 14 games, again, this year in Fredericksburg, in 50 at-bats, he has struck out 28 times. It doesn't really matter what you do. If you are going to be striking out 28 times in your first 50 at-bats, that is not a good look, especially at the rate that he struck out in last year's performance as well. I'm not ready to say that it's over for Elijah Green, but I am kind of ready to say that if you're expecting him to be a star, at this point, it's just not likely. And again, I don't think this is on Elijah Green. He's a 20-year-old prospect. The Nationals took a huge swing, and so far, it's looking like a miss. I don't think it's Elijah Green's fault again. I think that this was a project in which was just too big for an organization like the Nationals could handle. The Nationals do not have this huge track record of developing superstars here in town. Yes, we do have developed Bryce Harper. You have developed Juan Soto, Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner. But those guys were a little bit different. Bryce Harper was a can't-miss prospect. Juan Soto, on the other hand, that was an organizational success in which he has become one of the better hitters of the last decade. Trey Turner, organizational success. Someone that was drafted by the Padres, but again, was way more developed, got drafted out of college, and even then, when you have a college bat, you already kind of know what they are. But Elijah Green was a big swing, and so far, it's just been a miss. Simple as that. I'm not going to say that it is over, but I will say that if you're expecting him to be some mega superstar like a lot of people thought he could be coming out of the draft, I think that ship probably has sailed at this point. He's not over. It's going to be a project. And again, the Nationals could very much so turn him around. But at this point, the way that he is striking out and the way that he just has not hit a home run, he's only hit one home run this season. That is supposed to be his bread and butter. He's a 60-grade power guy. And again, coming out of the draft, he was a 65-grade power guy. This is someone who's going to hit a ton of home runs in baseball, and we all knew he would strike out a lot, but still, the power hasn't come as well. Only one home run in 50 at-bats, and again, last year, he had 5 home runs in total over the course of the season. It has not worked out for Elijah Green. It's unfortunate. The guy's got talent. He can run. He's got huge power. He can play defense. There's a lot of different things going for him, but still, unfortunately, it just has not worked out for him, and at this point, it's kind of tough to see that it will work out for him eventually. But again, maybe the Nationals get him right. Maybe he turns it around at some point this summer, have a swing correction, just like the Padres did with James Wood back in the day. But at this point, it's really tough to see that happening. So hopefully Elijah Green can turn it around. If you're down in Fredericksburg, let me know, because there also is Christian McCarrow, who has been playing decent baseball down there. Even then, I'd like to see him take a little bit of a step up. But another guy that I do want to talk about is Dalen Lyle. Dalen Lyle, again, if you remember, you saw him down in spring training. He played a few games with the Nationals. He had that really scary injury that ultimately was not all too serious, but again, got checked out in the hospital after flipping over the fence and against the Red Sox in their bullpen, if I remember correctly, against that team. But you all saw the play. It was a really scary injury to see happen live, but Dalen Lyle has kind of been struggling compared to what we saw from this last year. Dalen Lyle is a very interesting case here. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be someone who will be a star someday, but I think he could be a good role player for this Nationals ball club someday. So far this season, his numbers have been pretty pedestrian. It's kind of been mediocre at best, but still, he's in high A Wilmington. And again, the Nationals, this is kind of their project right now. If you can get a guy like Dalen Lyle to develop while you have Robert Hassel, who's down in AA, who really, again, isn't doing all too much. Unfortunately, after killing the ball in spring training, he did get a little dinged up there, but still, Robert Hassel has not looked all too great. But if you have kind of that other project in your system, like a Dalen Lyle, who has had moments of really good seasons with this Nationals ball club, then you can kind of put together and kind of scratch together a good baseball team out of this farm system. Dalen Lyle is a very interesting target here. He doesn't really have massive power, but again, he's kind of a gap-to-gap hitter who can find those holes and also can run, can play solid defense, has a really good arm. And again, this was a pretty high prospect coming out of the MLB draft back in 2021 when the Nationals took Brady House in the first round. Dalen Lyle followed that in the second round, and he's been pretty good. Missed an entire season of Tommy John surgery. Last year's his first full professional season, and he was really damn good for the Fredericksburg Nationals, and then got shipped up to high A Wilmington and kind of struggled a little bit. And again, he's doing the same thing this year, but as we know, that park is a pitcher-friendly ballpark. It does not do well for hitters, especially guys who are gap-to-gap kind of guys, the way that Dalen Lyle is. So we'll see what the Nationals can do with him, but Dalen Lyle, not all too worried about him. I think that guy's going to be a player for this team, and you'll probably see him take that next step up once he gets out of the Wilmington Blue Rocks ballpark. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now let's talk about this Dodger series as James Paxton goes up against Patrick Corbin, and thank God, Dodgers, you're not going up against Mitchell Parker tonight. You will be just fine. We'll talk about that, but now let's tell you guys about our friends over at Monopoly Go. And guys, I've been told that I'm a competitive person. And of course, if you watch, you probably think that's true. Well, yeah, I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. And it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also heist their values of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is, but it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in on the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play Store. Let's get into it as the Nationals are going up against this Dodgers team today. And again, the Nationals sit at 10-11 right now. The Dodgers, who have been kind of struggling lately, by the way, they have only won 3 of their last 10 games. They sit at 13-11. They still sit at atop the NL West, but still that NL West division has not all been too great so far this season. You have the Colorado Rockies, who is at 5-18, one of the worst teams in all of baseball up at this point. The San Diego Padres are just a half game back from those Dodgers. The NL East reigning National League champions, Arizona Diamondbacks, have been struggling a little bit. They're 5-5 over their last 10 games. They sit at 11-13, and the Giants are 11-13 as well. But this Dodgers team, you still have to be prepared to go against this team. You all know that they're better than what their record has said. They have been kind of struggling here recently, but I can tell you this, it's not because of James Paxton. James Paxton has been really good through his first handful of starts so far this season. But looking at the numbers, going up against Patrick Corbin, number one, we all know this. Patrick Corbin, unfortunately, just does not have it anymore. He's entering his final year of his massive contract with the Nationals, who helped them win a 2019 World Series. But still, when you look at the numbers and you see a lot of right-handed hitters on this Dodgers lineup, you kind of go, this is going to be a tough one. One guy in particular to watch, someone who has faced this guy a ton throughout his career, being a former Miami Marlin, is shortstop Miguel Rojas. Patrick Corbin and Miguel Rojas do not get along. Now, I'm not saying as friends, they're not friends, Miguel Rojas kills the baseball off Patrick Corbin. Over 39 at-bats. Miguel Rojas has batted .410 with a 12.03 OPS versus Patrick Corbin. And again, those 39 at-bats. Mookie Betts as well has had a ton of success against Patrick Corbin in a lot more limited time. But still, when you have right-hand hitters like that who are going to be attacking Corbin, you're just going to want to stay away from him. Patrick Corbin kind of has those guys where he just simply cannot get out. Maybe the slider just falls in perfectly, and guys like Miguel Rojas can kill his slider, obviously. Mookie Betts is a dangerous hitter for whoever he's going up against. So now, the Dodgers, this will probably be a very tough matchup for the Nationals to win tonight. Going up against James Paxton as well, who has been pretty damn good for them this season. But maybe the Nationals can kind of luck their way into a nice little win. Ultimately, I'm not 100% sure we can get that done. This is going to be a tough matchup because, again, Patrick Corbin on the bump tonight. You do have a fresh bullpen. I would like you not to burn all your A guys tonight. So maybe tonight's going to be one where you throw out guys like your B bullpen and see what happens. But I'm not really going to be out there guessing a Nationals win tonight. I'll wait for Thursday when you have Yamamoto versus Mackenzie Gore. That'll be a fun pitching matchup. And, of course, tomorrow's game as well that we'll preview on tomorrow's Locked On National. So, of course, have a good one. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy Nats baseball tonight. After a day off, baseball is back.